Do you believe in miracles? We got Fizzle in the house. Fizzle, what's good, man? Fizzle, glad to have you here.
Let's go. This the South Harmon Podcast. Glad you here today. Hit that Patreon link if you here to stay. Dynasty best ball, that's my favorite way. 40 chess trade show, let's make a trade today or check a AMA. You know Adam at the ATM. Mike always in the building, he gon' stay with him. They gon' start every show off with their own trade. Fantasy's a big ocean, they made their own wave. Make sure you tapping in Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tuesday night, Saturday morning, ain't no better way. Hit that notification bell when the news break. Go subscribe right now, don't get the news late. Destination Devy, that's the team. Dynasty football, man, that's my favorite thing. I remember Biggie said it was all a dream. Now people watching on their phones and computer screens. Welcome to the team. Let's start the show.
Yes, sir. Tuesday AMA. What's going on, everybody? As you can see, Mike is not here. But Mike said on Twitter, so I could say it, we got an upgrade in the building. We got somebody with more facial hair. We got Gene, FantasyGenes, as you may know on Twitter. One half of the Off the Line Fantasy Football Podcast. Destination Devy team member, partner in crime. What's going on, Gene? How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I appreciate you having me on this AMA this Tuesday evening. I just want to say, I know I haven't told you personally, but you and Mike, I know I love the work that y'all been putting in and seeing y'all getting over 1K subscribers on YouTube, and just it's inspiring to see y'all grinding it out and growing and growing. So salute to y'all putting in the work. And also the intro, man. This intro go hard, man. I might need to holler at Fizzle. I know Fizzle in my area, man. So
yeah,
I
man.
need to say what's up to him, man.
Yeah, definitely Fizzle. Shout out to Fizzle. Do you believe in miracles? What it do, family? Fizzle. Everybody that's come on says the same thing. He killed that one for us. Yeah, definitely get in touch with him. It's been a grind, but man, we are having a blast. And off season is here. Combine is here. Not necessarily players we care for today for fantasy purposes, but it's here, man. The 23 class, the ever hyped 23 class that seemed like it was never gonna come. It's here, man. And before we get into questions, I appreciate everyone being in here, man. Fizzle's here, our boy Barry's here. We got Shane in the building, Corey Schumer. Appreciate everyone tapping in. But before we get to all the questions, Gene had a good one to start off with, and a lot of the drafts that we do on the Destination Devy side, a lot of the ones we do on the shit side, South Harmon, they are all going to be done before the NFL draft. Kind of trust your process. And doing a bunch of them, like I did a couple of them in 2020, going into the 21 season. But last year going into 22, did a whole bunch of them. So I have a lot more ideas and context behind, how I want to approach those this year. But Gene, good topic to discuss here. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts, your questions, where you're at on this process, and your thoughts as a whole.
My thoughts as a whole is go get your guy. Like I got on my backboard.
Get him, man.
I'm one of the people that I am a believer or a proponent of doing the draft, doing your rookie draft before the actual draft. I understand that people like to know where all these players are going. But I mean, all in all, I don't think it really matters that much. I know last year we were in a few drafts where we did it way before. I know we did one before, like right after the combine. It was a shit show.
Yeah, man. That one was crazy. We did it in like, you know what, man? It was speaking of the shit show, South Harmon, nice little plug there. But that was in like early February. I remember we did that thing as soon as we could. So that was a wild one, no doubt, man.
It was. I mean, we saw what Malik went to. Pickett went 3.
Yep.
It was bad, but generally, I think if you go back in, the previous drafts beforehand, if you would have drafted that earlier, I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad as that last one because of how bad those quarterbacks were. But all in through, I think going through the combine, going to people's pro days.
What's up, Brandon?
I used to get that a lot when I was younger, for sure. So,
oh, that's too funny, man. I love that shit.
But like I was saying, I think seeing combine, seeing the Underwear Olympics, seeing people's pro days, I think you can going through like all the tea leaves from all the Twitter personnel or people that you follow on Twitter that give you the latest news in terms of who's going to draft who. I just think with that information, you should have enough to get a good idea of who you want. I don't care who cares about the draft spot. If you believe in that person, go get your guy regardless of the fact and see what happens after that.
Yeah, I mean, the reality too, when you draft before the NFL draft, like you have to trust your process a lot more. You have to have one too. Otherwise, you're just going to be drafting willy-nilly, not understand stuff. And I think the reality is because of that, that's where the pushback is, because people just don't know enough, right? Mm-hmm. And they want to have as much information as possible when you go into the draft. But some of the things to think about, right? Like when we talk about players as a whole, dynasty as a whole, we talk about assets, right? And we had Mike Lou on the trade show a few weeks ago, and he was one of the big starters for Mike and myself, at least, on thinking of these players and assets as stocks, right? And kind of like trading them and treating them appropriately. So if you think about, like, I would say post-NFL draft, there's still a ton of volatility. But the reality is, like when you do it pre-NFL draft, before the NFL draft, think of it more like options. And what I mean by that is, and this was Mike's kind of idea to give a good parallel, options for stock, the payoff is huge, but the collapse is brutal, right? So if you think about it that way, like I kind of want to give some framework to the process that I've seen over the last couple of years with this and ways to not get burnt as bad. So at the end of the day, I mean, you can get burnt on a first-round pick, early first-round pick. It doesn't matter if you do it before or after. But little edges you can think about, right? So when you think of like the collapse last year, like, Gene already talked about it pretty big. Like you're talking, we have data from our 6 drafts that Mike and I did together last year in 22. So 101 was Breece Hall. I mean, didn't matter. Breece Hall was going to be the 101. 102, like we talked about, was Malik Willis. Now, this is where I think you'll see, like, the ones that really hurt last year were Malik Willis. Isaiah Spiller was the 4th in ADP. Matt Corral was, where was he at? The 6th in ADP. Yikes. Sam Howell was the 11th in ADP, right? So you were chasing the quarterbacks in 22 is what really burnt you. But the payoff also, because of that, was massive. You think about, like, Chris Olave was a 201 in these pre-NFL drafts, right? Pickens was also a second-round pick. Dotson was a second-round pick. But then also, I think what's really missed, and when you look at it, what really becomes more valuable is some of these later darts, because people are going to miss more early because they're shooting their shots on other stuff. So 3rd round, man, you get Tyler Algier. You got Tyler Algier types. You got in the 4th round, Greg Dulcich, Jelani Woods, Isaiah Likely, all in the 4th. Now, like, the reality is here, I think, when you're drafting early, what you really want to try to do is kind of get an idea of 2 things, the way I look at it. One, how are these players viewed by the community? Like, assess what can go right and what can go wrong. So if you're taking someone in the 1st round, what happens if they don't get the draft capital? And if you say, shit, if they don't get the draft capital, it's a free fall, you might not want to take them super high. Like, those are kind of little edges I think you can play up. So, and then also getting later picks down the line in drafts, because if you're in a league, knowing your league is a big thing too. Like if it's, the OG bomb squad, like you're talking about, you're not going to get crazy values because everybody's tapped into Ray. But if you're tapped into Ray and the other people aren't, you can get these values at later picks. So those are kind of some of the edges I think that you can play up when it's before the NFL draft.
All right, so let's go back to your analogy using options and looking at different players. So let's use quarterbacks in this draft, because how polarizing a couple of them are. So
right.
Get right to it. So if you're looking at someone like Will Levis, how are you going to handle that if you're like at let's say the 105 and you're trying to decide between like him and Jahmyr Gibbs or maybe even JSN or QJ? How are you going to weigh those the good and the bad between each and deciding which one you want?
Man, great question here. Glad you went there. So this is actually a pretty good one. Now, I play in a portfolio, right? I'm not in just a couple leagues. So I can probably spread this out a couple different ways. But all in all, if you think about it, right? So what do we know about Gibbs? Like Gibbs, everybody loves him, but we don't. If you were doing it today before the combine information, you don't know what his weight is, what his combine speed is. I love him at a certain value, but there's safer options at 105, right? You could get burnt if Gibbs ends up being light and he doesn't run fast, and all of a sudden he's not picked early day 2, right? There's a little bit of risk there. Like JSN, Quentin Johnson have some risk, Jordan Addison have some risk, but they're probably safer. Like the wide receivers in that very high end are safer. Will Levis, here's the reality of Will Levis, man. He's probably getting the draft capital, but like if he, let's say, ended up not being a top 15 pick, like the community already doesn't really like him, you know? He's got a bad sentiment on him. So if he was not a top 15 pick, you're not going to like taking him at 105 unless he ends up being just a stud and you hold him for forever. So I guess those are kind of the things that the wide receiver plays there probably pose more safe because we've seen them mock. They're going to be first-round picks. You know, Will Levis will be a first-round pick, but if he's not a high-end first-round pick, the stink on him is kind of real. So that's where I think it's a little riskier there. Knowing your league, can you get him later? Could you trade back for Will Levis as opposed to just taking him at 105 would be kind of my options if you really want to go get him and use your guy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. He's one of those options that you take and you're just like, you got your hands up and you're just like, whatever happens, because you already know you shouldn't be betting on you shouldn't be putting money in anything that you're not afraid to lose. So if you're spending on 105, then if you're spending on 105 on him, then you should already know like, hey, this could be a fucking boom or it could be, straight to the gutter. So you gotta, like I said, you gotta go get your guy, and that means you gotta believe in who you're drafting and when you're spending those first round picks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess talk to me a little more. Who are some of the other ones in the first round you're kind of thinking of that if you're doing it pre-NFL draft that you want to talk about? Now, obviously, Sunday we'll have information on the combine. So as long as you're not drafting before then, you'll at least have combine numbers for like Jahmyr Gibbs. That will be big, making sure his weight's right. Some of the other running backs, making sure they're fast enough and big enough. So that those are keys there. But who are some other guys first, second round? Anyone you're thinking of in this process?
QJ. I know a lot of people love the traits of QJ, but for me, he honestly scares me a little bit. When I look at him, watching a little bit of his film, watching him play in real time during the season, I watch a lot of football. I watched a lot of TCU because, they were squeaking out a lot of games. For him to be that big, I think he's a little soft. I think especially when those 50-50 balls, he kind of just, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. He doesn't really go and like boss people like you want to if somebody's that big, that athletic, supposed to be that strong. So
I remember there was a couple plays when Ray was breaking down film where it's like
that Kansas game.
He either didn't track it or just didn't go up to get it. It's like, dude, that's a pick you shouldn't be giving up.
But that's something that you see all season. I haven't gone through like every single game that I watched for this past season, but the few games I've seen, it's the same. Like he goes up as if he's like 5'11", not 6'4", and that scares me. There's even data that goes back in terms of wide receivers coming at the Big 12, wherever that's worth, that they usually don't pan out. The last one that's really hit is CeeDee Lamb. You got Jalen Reagor, you got I'm trying to go down the list. There's just a bunch of them. All those Baylor receivers,
Denzel Mims,
UT receivers. They don't do nothing, man. They get the first round draft capital and then just fizzle out. So, and on top of that, he's coming from TCU. So, TCU wide receivers usually don't pan out. And you got, I remember Doxson that came out through here. We've already talked about Reagor. So I don't know, man. That's one person that scares me a little bit is QJ. Another person I'm really excited about, seeing the combine and seeing how the process works out is Zach Charbonnet. I know we were high on him when he was in Michigan. He wasn't really getting the burn.
Right.
He leaves, goes to UCLA. We were kind of we saw him the first year he was there and he kind of did something. And then this past year, he really like smashed. And so everybody's back on again. I think he's somebody that can really sneak up and get day 2 capital for sure. So I want to see how he works out. And then a couple wide receivers I want to hit on is Rashee Rice, somebody that I've liked pre-Senior Bowl. And, when Ray and Jay Rich came back, they just talked about how disappointing he was in terms of, the one-on-ones, and just really didn't show out at all. So it's somebody I really liked, really liked. It was sad to hear that. So it'd just be interesting to hear and see how he performs at the combine. And one more wide receiver that I'm interested in seeing is Marvin Mims. I saw somebody in the chat brought him up. He's somebody that hits all the metrics in terms of when he broke out. He broke out his freshman year. We saw him this year again when he wasn't hurt. He smashed the Big 12, but his prototype is somebody that doesn't really give you the big fantasy production you want between the first 3 years as a wide receiver coming into the league. So it'd be interesting to see how he ends up working out, how high the scouts look at him, and going from there. So, and seeing Marvin Mims, he reminds me of Elijah Moore a lot. So yeah, we'll see how it works out. But those are some of the players I'm looking out for.
Yeah, Marvin Mims, it's interesting. I guess it'd be interesting to see what people do in their mocks, but we've been doing mock data. Shout out to Dynasty Barry, everyone at Destination Devy, all the time. I mean, it's literally daily that I'm either getting tagged to get in a mock draft, I'm in one, or Barry's running them. So right now, the 307, like Marvin Mims to me, see, that's part of the thing when I'm talking pre-NFL draft, right? Like, okay, if you take Marvin Mims at the 307 and you miss, what have you missed on?
You didn't miss on anything.
Right, but this is where the pre-NFL draft, what's nice is if you can get a guy like him there, like there's a lot more payoff, I think, with these later round picks. So if you have a bunch of thirds and can shoot your shots on guys, for example, Rashee Rice is also a third. Now, if you've accumulated cheaply thirds, you take your shot on Rashee Rice, Dalton Kincaid, Marvin Mims. Probably one of them will at least return enough value that all three of the picks are worth. Like, there's a real scenario where that's going to happen. So I guess that's another thing I wanted to highlight. This class, especially being so deep at tight end, all the depth at running back, like these later picks are actually so much more intriguing pre-NFL draft. The running backs this year, what's interesting is, outside of Bijan, who's obviously going to go 101, and pre-draft, he really should go 101 every time. If you wanted to take a shot on one of the quarterbacks, that's fine, but go get your guy, I guess, but you're not going to return any value taking them over Bijan Robinson probably. What's interesting, though, is, Gibbs, someone put it in here. Here we go. Do you guys expect the combine to bump Gibbs' value? Like, I would expect it to do one of two. Like, I would expect, if anything, he checks all the boxes and he's basically more solidified. But I think, if anything, he could end up dropping value if he doesn't have the best.
I mean, I can't imagine where's he going to go. I would assume he's RB2 if you're doing mock drafts. He's the second running back to go in pretty much every mock draft that you're doing right now. So I'm not sure how much higher. He's not going to go above any of the quarterbacks. The top three, in my opinion, Young, Stroud, and Anthony A. Rich, in my opinion. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean,
how much more.
The bump in value would be, right now he's going 107 in the mocks. So let's say he could probably solidify himself ahead of Levis and maybe even ahead of JSN or the top receiver. But the reality is, if he doesn't check the boxes, that's where I think his value could actually fall more than it could be going up. But knowing what he has in the combine and what he checks in at weight-wise is huge for Gibbs. So I guess that's the main thing with him. Like, I don't think he'll skyrocket anywhere, but he might solidify his place where it is right now a little more. All right, real quick, we're going to do a trade offer here. We're going to still do some rookie talk, but Ryan has a inbox offer, 12 team start 10, tiered PPR, 0.25 points per carry. He's going to give Dak, Olave, Khalil Herbert. He's going to get Hurts, Deion Jax, and Teddy Bridgewater. I think it's a little heavy, but want that second stud quarterback. Have Herbert, Pickett, Goff as other quarterbacks. What do you think here, Gene?
Deion Jax. Who Hurts? Who is it? Who's that? Deion Jax?
I don't know if that's a typo or if I just can't think of who that is. I'm not actually sure. Ryan, who do you got here? Deion Jax?
Yeah, I don't know who is that either.
Doesn't say. Oh, it is best ball. Okay, so That was the first thing I was going to say. Is it best ball or not? Because if this is lineup, this is a complete smash. I'll give away Olave if that's what it takes to get Hurts. Yep. Best ball, it's a little closer. I'll be honest, I'm not sure who Deion Jackson.
Deion Jackson.
Deion Jackson. Taylor's back.
Yeah.
Those two don't mean much to me. In best ball, Khalil Herbert's fine, but I'm only giving up 2 assets here. I would do this even in best ball. It hurts a little more because Olave is real depth at the receiver position. But like, I'll just tell you this: I'm in a startup right now. It's an auction though, so the cost of Chris Olave and Dak Prescott in auction, it might get you Hurts, maybe. So I'm probably doing this. The only way I wouldn't do this is if like you have absolutely no depth and can't compete and you're worried about Hurts. Personally, I'm going to do this though. What do you think, Jane?
It's a little tougher for me because it's start 12 in a best ball. Like Khalil Herbert potentially could be
10.
Oh, start 10, start 10.
12 teams, start 10. I mean, it is even still in best ball. It's not a easy send. Like sending Olave is tough.
It's gonna hurt a little bit, but I think I want to lean and go ahead and do this because just Hurts has been top 3 fantasy quarterback the last 2 years. I mean, he was number 1 both these years until he got hurt. Just fuck it, go get your guy, man. So it's a smash. Yeah,
because here's the reality, right? Dak is a fine target. I think people are dunking on Dak a little too much. But here's the reality. Like, could Dak have a resurgence in production? Yeah, he probably could. Is his dynasty value ever going to really creep up where you get a bunch of value coming back from Dak? No, that's not happening. Those days are gone. What is coming with, like, Jalen Hurts is way more valued right now than Dak Prescott. Jalen Hurts currently, until something changes, they have 2 first-round picks coming in this year. They have studs everywhere. Until they pay him and this team's completely different, his warp has a chance to be outrageous. So when I think of what I'm going to get in production and in dynasty value from Jalen Hurts, that's what I want because Chris Olave has a very good market right now, right? He's the sexy thing. But warp-wise, like, are you is Chris Olave going to make or break your team and start 10? Probably not. And you could find cheaper production that's not quite as good as Olave, but is reasonable replacement for him. So I'm sending this and happily getting Jalen Hurts personally here.
Yeah.
All right. So Marvin Mims was one. Let's see. All right, we got that off. Oh, here we go. So Bradley Bryan says, what are you all doing with Calvin Ridley on a contender, on a rebuild? What are your expectations for this year? What would you deal him away for? That's a good question. Gene, we haven't talked much about his dynasty value. So what do you think here? Do you have some Ridley shares?
I do have some Ridley shares in a couple of leagues. I know, at points during the season, I was able to get him for a second. I know other people people offered thirds once they figured out that he was going to be playing or confirmed. But, on a contender, there's not really much value. You're not going to get much back. You just hold on to him, honestly. Rebuild, I'm not sure how he even should be on your team because he's 29 going on 30. For a rebuild, there's no reason for him to be on your team, honestly. So if you can get a second for him, then ship him off. Otherwise, he's going to be otherwise, you just swallow the bullet. You take the third, and you keep it moving. But in terms of this season, the Jags got a lot of receivers, man. Like you just saw Ingram is coming back. Mm-hmm. They got Christian Kirk, who they paid a lot of money to.
Yep.
You got Zay Jones, who they paid a lot of money to. You got Marvin Jones, who's on the squad. I'm not sure if they're gonna cut him or not. They got something called Jamal Agnew that keeps sneaking in there every once in a while and taking receptions. So there's a lot of bodies to go around and feed. So if you get, before he got caught up gambling, he was top 15 wide receiver dynasty wise.
Yeah. He was
top
people
24
were very
for sure, so.
Going into the year, what would that have been? 21. Going into that
21?
season, he was very highly coveted. Like I was out because he was basically a third round startup pick, and at that point, there was more receiver running back debate. So like not only was it third round, but that's like inside of top 15 every time wide receiver value. I would say this. at this point, if you held on a rebuild, you were hoping to sell, and you didn't want to sell when there was no buzz around him. Like, that's probably the reality, right? So if you're at that point, you have to think about this kind of in waves. I think every player and everyone should think about assets as in waves, right? Like right now we're talking about the combine, we're talking about the rookie draft, pre-NFL, post-NFL draft, what these assets could look like in the rookies, right? And there's value ascension for a lot of these guys. Now, if they fail at the combine or they don't get the draft capital, there's value loss coming for them. But if you think about that, right, a lot of the buzz is going to happen then. And what could happen for Calvin Ridley in the draft that I've seen mocked already? They have a first and a second round pick. I've seen them using, because Lawrence is on a rookie deal, a first round or a second round pick on a receiver. So think about what that will do now just to his value as far as perception, right? That's going to kill some of your sell window. But if they end up not drafting a receiver, you'll probably have a lot of buzz for him in camp. So those are kind of some things to keep in mind, like risk and reward. If you're on a rebuild at this point, like you could have already sold Ridley for a second. So if you're not doing that and you weren't comfortable with that, like you have to wait and hope that there's not a receiver drafted and it's closer to the season to get more than that probably.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that.
I would sell. Like, if you're just nuking this thing and you want to get off of Ridley, like, you need at least a second back. You could maybe ask for a little plus. You might, but here's the problem. If you get to the closer to the season and he starts killing it, like, I'm not sure. Like, maybe you can get a first. My point is what you're holding out for may not actually exist. So that's why I don't know if it's worth holding and hoping you're going to get a first from somebody.
Yeah.
And on a contender, I mean, unless there's some buzz and people are like willing to let you trade Ridley for an asset that's much more safer, I think he's a hold at this point on a contender. Yeah. So that's probably what I would say with him. All right, let's see what else we got here, Gene. So
you had a super chat.
Oh, we got a super chat. Okay, Ricardo. Yeah. Okay, super chat. Appreciate it, Ricardo. $4.99. 10-team best ball Superflex start 12. Give Hurts the 104 and the 207. Get Danny Dimes, Trey Lance, 102. No, no, sir. Don't do that. I would not do that personally. Let me ask you this, Ricardo. If you wanted to do this, because I do see it's 10-team, like walk me through why you might want to take the other side. Like what's your plan with it? I guess because for me, Hurts is worth every bit of like. He's almost worth that whole other side.
Yeah.
Like he's almost worth the whole other side.
Hurts and a 104. So another quarterback to get two quarterbacks that are below him. Yeah. Two, 3 tiers down.
The only reason I can see this is because like in 10-team, if you have a really good quarterback room and at 102, you're thinking you're going to get a skill player, because in 10-team the quarterback scarcity is not that high, but also in 10-team like I don't want Danny Dimes and Trey Lance, like there's ceiling there, but I'd much rather just have Hurts, and then at 104 and 207 I can go shoot my shots on players, especially given like the settings here. There's just no way. Did
you see he said that he was wanted 2 first instead of the 1? Even still, I'm not doing that. I don't think.
Let me just think. Let me just pull this back up just to see like. So first of all, like if you even wanted to think about this, there's no way if you're giving up Hurts, there's no way any other pick should be involved. Period. Like Dimes, Trey Lance, 102, and even like 103 in this format. Like I wouldn't do it because in 10-team scarcity's down, and also like what you really want in 10-team is all the studs. So, like, you already have that. Like, I'd much rather shoot my shot at 104 on what the best player available is and ride Hurts as, you know, one of my stud quarterbacks. Like, personally here, I think this is where sometimes we can see you get value back, right? But understanding the format here, it's like Dimes and Lance, like their warp last year didn't even come close to Hurts alone. And then you're getting 102 versus 104 and 207. I want your side. Like even if you added another first to this deal and took out your 104, like I still might just rather have Hurts, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can't do this, man.
No. The other thing, too, is if you do want to deal away Hurts and you want to get value back because of that, I need, and we've talked about this a lot, especially given the new landscape of quarterback and how shallow it is, you've got to send me back someone higher than Lance or Dimes. Like, I'm not getting out of Hurts unless you're giving me back Herbert type,
Watson?
Lamar type. Who?
Oh, so you want the next tier down. You don't even want to go 2 tier. Okay.
I mean, I will. I'm saying, but like, what's the tier? Who's the next tier for you?
So
like, who
you just so tier 1, I would assume fantasy purposes, you got Allen, you got Mahomes, and I got Hurts.
Yep.
Next tier, you got Lamar, you got Herbert.
Burrow. So for me, it would be Mahomes. Mahomes is kind of now in his own tier. I got all those other guys.
Okay.
Allen, Hurts, Burrow, all in a tier.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
And then I would go Herbert, Lamar, Fields, and then after that you start getting dicey.
Watson.
Yeah, Watson. You have age, and you're hoping for resurgence, like Dak Prescott, Watson, Kyler.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if you wanted to go into that tier and really gain back a lot of value, I'd be okay with that. But I'm just not I'm not anymore in the business of getting out of Hurts to get a bunch of guys in this range here, because 102 again is going to project to be CJ Stroud. So I now have in 10 team trying to figure out who my other Superflex or starting quarterback is. I'm good on that.
Hey, Adam. Okay, so what if it was Danny Dimes, T. Law, and 102 for Hurts? Would you do that?
Yes. If I'm getting Trevor Lawrence back and a couple pluses, yeah, I would do that. Because I think Trevor Lawrence may not have the warp that Jalen Hurts does, but now I might be able to flip some of that stuff into meaningful players. Where right here, the meat of my deal, I don't have a stud coming back at quarterback that I can secure and then go move the other assets to build my team with. I think that's the big difference. If I can stay in the top 10 to 12, I'm cool. But shooting my shot on Trey Lance, and I believe in him, but if it falls out, you're gonna hate yourself. Danny Dimes, if Saquon doesn't come back and Danny Dimes is in the Giants, I like Dayball a lot. I think he's improved Danny Dimes, but you could be looking at his peak in dynasty value. So I'm not doing it for these assets.
It's like the GameStop auction trade. You're just on for the ride, and whatever happens, man.
Yeah, man.
And I don't want to do that if I'm dealing Hurts, man. I need guaranteed assets back, man. I don't want to be guessing with Lance, man. But with T. Law, you got 2 shots at your quarterback position instead of just depending on Hurts. So I get that side, but I don't want to deal with Lance and Dimes, and then with a 102 another rookie quarterback. Nah,
right?
Can't do it
because they all have uncertain markets. And think about it this way: in 10-team leagues, the scarcity's down, right? Okay, so part of the quarterback horde that Mike and I talk about in a 12-team league is because there's 24 quarterbacks everybody's going to have to play optimally every week, right? Yep. And if everyone has 3, we're past the point of, all the starting quarterbacks. So now, if you have a plethora, you can play that as an edge. When there's only 20, and then when you get to the third quarterback, if everyone has 3, you haven't even reached all the starters here. So the scarcity is not as easily played here. So if you think about it, Danny Dimes, Trey Lance, 102. One, they're harder to leverage those quarterbacks into skill players. That's the first point. Second point, you now have to figure out which one of these guys is mattering enough in a 10-team league, because there's less teams, the teams are going to be better. Each one of them is going to be better, so you want more studs. So you not only have to figure out how to leverage these guys, which you can't do in 10-team as well, but you have to figure out which one is the best scorer. So ultimately on both sides of that, I want Hurts every time here.
And on top of that, out of the 24 quarterbacks I got to start, you don't even trust all 24.
No.
On top of that.
Mm-hmm. Not at all. Yeah. So, Ricardo, I really appreciate the super chat, man. Thanks for popping in. I hope that answered your question. What I would tell you here, man, again, if you're going to move Hurts, which I'm not saying I won't do, I just need to make sure I'm staying in the tiers that mean a lot. Otherwise, and getting a plus. Otherwise, I'll just hold Hurts in this format. All right. So let's see what else we got. All right. Paul Braun, 12-team, PPR, lineup start 9. Looking to get Watson, but not sure what to offer. 105 plus, what would be a reasonable offer? It's a good question. And I'd say this, Paul, it's a good target because he's in the mix at quarterback of someone that could resurge in value. You got to think about his situation, not playing football for a while, only playing in the back half of this season, some shitty weather games, you could tell like he was just rusty. And he's a whole offseason I think will do him well, and he's worth in this quarterback market shooting a shot on, and he's depressed in value. Gene, what do you think, man? Put it on both sides. You have Watson. What's it going to take for you to come off Watson here in this? And then secondly, what are you willing to send to give a couple like different ideas here?
So if I'm looking to release Watson, I would probably want a quarterback back on top of this 105. So maybe in the range of like I would do 105 and Russ, 105 and Tua.
There you go. Yep.
For around that range, maybe Kirk Cousins, maybe, but somewhere in that range of quarterbacks where they're like, average, that they're probably borderline top 12, like your QB1 range. They're hovering that line plus a 105. Yeah. I'll let go Watson for that. If I'm trying to get Watson, I'm almost assuming the person that has him is probably going to want 2 firsts, and I'm not sure if I feel comfortable just handing out 2 firsts like that, unless they're like back of the first. I would do that. But I mean, the other way around, I think if my team was good, I would hope it's stacked because it's lineup start 9, that I have some studs, and I would give up to a Cousins, Wilson plus the 105 to get Watson if I felt so stronghold that he was going to come back in and really smash this year.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit a good point. That realistically, like what I'm gonna need back is at least a quarterback that makes sense if I was ever gonna entertain it. Now, doesn't mean you have to do that, but that's basically what a deal that anyone's really probably considering that savvy would need. I guess here's the question for me, Paul, here, especially because his lineup start 9. Like, what does your team look like? What does your quarterback room look like? Like, what assets do you have to add to this 105? Because the reality, too, is, like, your league better than everyone else, but format here is key. Lineup start 9, like, I've seen how quarterbacks trade in these type of leagues, and sometimes it's crazy if you're going to try to go buy a quarterback. So I kind of would love to know what you're working with here to better answer the question. I would say this. If you can give up 105 and even any of the mid-first and back, like 2 firsts that's more middling to late, I would send that in a heartbeat if he doesn't need a quarterback back. If he does, Gene probably hit the nail on the head with some quarterbacks. Like, I would love to maybe if I could get rid of a Pickett, like if someone's willing to get youthful, like take Pickett in 105 to go get Watson, I would do that. So
somebody said Geno. Would you do Geno 105? Would you take that if you had Watson?
I wouldn't take that, no. I would do that for sure. I would send that for sure. Like, Geno, man, is one of these assets in this format especially. Like, in best ball, like if you don't play in a lot of leagues and it's deep starters and you just want to hopefully ride the wave another year, go ahead. But he's an asset that I more often than not would love to move, especially if I can get into a more secure asset like Watson. So that would be a smash. Absolutely would love that, man. If you could send Geno Smith in 105, I mean, just do it now, get it over with, put it on the trade show, and Mike and I'll tell you how great of a deal it was. All right, Paul. So let us know if you're still with us. Let us know kind of the league in the set or your roster. I'm sorry. All right, 1 quarterback start 10. I have Mahomes, Watson, and Lance. Would you trade 106 and Lance for the 104? I feel like I lose some value, but still have 2 studs. 1 quarterback start 10. I guess here's my question, Patty Mills. Am I fine? Basically, in 1 quarterback, am I fine losing Lance? Yes. But, like, to me, this seems like you're targeting a rookie.
Yeah.
Because what's the difference in rookie 106 and 104, really? Like, and if that's a believe-in for you guy, fine. But the way I'm looking at this is if Gibbs checks all the boxes, Gibbs and Bijan are probably not going to be there. So now, like, are you saying at 104 you're going to get one of the top 3 receivers you really believe in versus 106. Like I'm kind of trying to figure out. I'm perfectly fine burning Lance given your quarterbacks in one quarterback because you only need to start one. But I guess my question is, what is at 104 that you see worth doing that for? Because realistically, like Gene said, Quentin Johnson has holes. JSN will see. There's enough receivers still in this class. I guess the reality is you might not be able to get, like, if it's Bijan, Gibbs, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnson, if that's your top 5 and you think the rest is kind of a drop-off when it gets to Sharbs and the other receivers, maybe. I don't know, though, man. I don't know that I want to do that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to trade away Lance and the 106, you go get a proven commodity. I really don't see the big jump between 106 and 104, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I guess, you believe in one of those receivers enough to do so. Like, losing Lance in this format's not going to kill you. So if, like, you really, like, Gene has it, go get your guy. But this is going to get your guy because I think value-wise, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me value-wise unless you really believe in one of these receivers that you don't think will make it to 106. I guess is the way I'd view that, Patty. So I'm also curious. Put it in the chat, man, if you're still with us, why or who you're targeting or what the situation is with that one. All right, here's one. Superflex rookie draft. How early are you willing to take JSN? Okay, Gene. Where are you at with JSN, man? Guy really thrives in the slot. Big name. Didn't do anything last year. Didn't play basically a lot last year. Kind of seems like the community's little split on him. What do you think?
I understand the split because he didn't play. He didn't really play much. He played like a game. When you combine all the times that he came in and came out, for me, he's my wide receiver 1.
Yep.
Superflex, I would take him 105, 106.
Yeah.
Depending on who goes in front of him, I feel very comfortable doing that at that spot.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as an Ohio State fan that's pretty tapped in with watching a lot of their stuff, like it's kind of crazy with him because, so you got Olave and Wilson don't play in the bowl last year. They play Utah. Yep. My man goes absolutely bananas, right? As Ray would say, banana land. And, like, the buzz going in for JSN going into last year was tremendous. And then, like, you see nothing from him, and I think there's, like, just, he doesn't play. Then all of a sudden, he doesn't have a ton of production because there was a lot of other, rookies, receivers at Ohio State. And those guys are producing in the NFL. So the crazy part is, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Matt Harmon had Garrett Wilson in an interview, and it was pretty recent. And he brought up that, Garrett Wilson said JSN was the best receiver in the group. And Garrett Wilson was kind of laughing and said, yeah, I still stand by that. This is a dude that just tore the NFL up. Absolutely tore the NFL up and says, I still believe this guy's better than me. Bro, these are alpha ego wide receiver type. That's wild to hear someone even say that.
Very wild. But to stop you right there, sorry, but
no, you're good. You're good.
Remember when they when DK did this with Elijah Moore?
Sure.
He said the same things. Like, oh man, you're gonna be better than all of us.
Yeah.
Or AJ Green, AJ Brown said that. I'm like, okay, and then we're 2 years in, and like,
sure,
you're not.
Yeah, I guess the thing, and that's a good point. Elijah Moore, though, always kind of body style, like never really carried wide receiver 1 in dynasty value, even if he was really good because of just like JSN. I think the thing with him is if he's going to play a lot in the slot, like he could tear it up. I don't know if he's ever going to have this perception of what Garrett Wilson could be in the NFL, right? So that's. Yeah. But here's the thing: could JSN, like JSN, I think as long as he gets the draft capital, he's going to be valued in the mix of he's going to be valued in the mix of wide receiver 15 to 20 before he even steps on the field. To me, that's worth, because of the way that receivers trade, 105, 106, 107, because like I'm definitely shooting my shot on Bijan and the 3 quarterbacks as long as they get the draft capital ahead. Even if it's pre-NFL draft, I'm taking those 4. After that at 105, like I'm not really going to fight you if you wanted to start taking them there.
Yeah. So just to go back to your wide receiver 15, 16, 17 range, that's in the range of going on cheap keep trade cut. They got Cooper Kupp at wide receiver 15, J-Mo at 16, which I don't get, but he's there still.
Mm-hmm.
Devontae, wide receiver 17, Debo 18, Christian Watson 19, and Michael Pittman 20.
Yep, and you know it's a good hone here because let me do this too. I think the best way to do this is look at those guys that you already talked about, and then also kind of look at last year's ADP from Adiko. So what I'll tell you is there's two things. One, like none of those names there, and you talk about Jameson Williams. He's one some of the patrons and I have kind of gone back and forth on, like, does he retain the value and stuff? He has so far, but there's also the height hasn't really built up quite yet on these receivers in this class. To give you an idea, last year where some of these receivers were coming off the board in startups once like stuff started to reach a peak. So you have right now, let's see here. So last year, is this? Oh, these weren't with the rookies in it. Hold on, I gotta get the rookies in there. Sorry, I'm trying to find this. So Drake London was the 412 last year, which put him at wide receiver 13. Yeah. Then you had, let's see, where are the other receivers?
And he's wide receiver 12 right now. Keep Drake Tuck.
There you go. And Drake London is, I'm still trying to see him here on this chart. It's small over here. I'll pull it up. But, like, if you think about Drake London, right? So Drake London got the draft capital. People were excited. Started well. Had a absolutely miserable middle part of the year. Did come back strong in the back half of the year. But, like, overall, it wasn't the greatest rookie season we've ever seen. You know, even it's far from it, as a matter of fact. Like, he still retained value. It's a lot based on the use. So my point is with JSN, like, if he gets requisite draft capital, he's going to go in the mix with these guys in the top 20, like, right out of the gates. So I guess that's kind of like, and nobody on that list really scares you. Like, Jameson Williams didn't do a thing. Like, people are giving him the benefit of the doubt because of injuries, but like that's where I think JSN will slide into that mix somewhere in there. So I'm comfortably taking him in the mid part of this first round. Hope that helps, Shane. All right, let's see. By the way, in case anybody wants to know, Sazerac Rye. Hope you guys are all drinking some bourbon with me. So just in case people are in the chat want to know what I'm drinking. All right, Joka, I like this question. I'm trying to up tier my quarterback. So you and everybody else probably are trying to do that. Superflex 12 team, I was thinking sending Dan. Is that a typo, or do you know who that is, Gene? D-A-M?
Maybe it's Dak.
Okay, there you go. That would make sense as far as an up tier too. Dak plus 105 in a couple seconds for Mahomes. Curious on how much more. Well, here's the thing I don't know, Joka. Mahomes is, all right, let me say this. Mahomes right now for me pretty much is worth whatever the cost is, but it also depends on what the format is, right? So is this lineup start 9? I'll do it. I'm fine. Is this lineup start 12? I have to know what your team looks like. Is this best ball? Like, these are where the edges are important with this conversation. Curious on how much more I can add. I have first and seconds to give. Joke, another thing, if your team's like stacked and it's not best ball, go get Mahomes because he's worth it in a warp. But like in best ball, I think is where I really have a hard time because you're looking at Dak and 105 and a couple seconds. It's not the worst deal in the world even there. And I'd be curious even in best ball if some of these people let it happen. If you could, Joke, I'll come back to this. If you could let me know what the format is, Gene and I would be able to answer it a lot better. All right, Super Chat. Jay Jackson. Super Chats have been slow tonight. Yeah, man. Let me bless my guy, Gene. Would do more for that Cowboys banner in the back. Love to see it, man. Appreciate it, Jay. Yeah, man.
Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Mike's not on right now. He's working. I know he loves to see some Dallas Cowboy stuff on the stream. And what's great is this is 2 weeks in a row where we got Dallas Cowboy gear on here.
That's true.
If you go back and look at the video, I'm making sure I added in just for Mike. You know, I'm kind of pulling up the 88 on the Cowboys jersey at one point just to make sure he sees all that. Gino is ATM's boy. Oh, Gino was nice last year because he kind of was a little darling, but listen, man, Gino gave me every bit of service that I could have ever expected from him and far more. And it's if I haven't moved him, which I don't actually know if I have any more. I know I just moved a share of Gino. If I haven't moved him, it's time to go. Sorry, buddy.
I have one more share of him. I need to move that. I don't want to bet on him finishing at quarterback 7 again. It's one of these random. It's not a league that you're in.
Okay. Let's talk about it, man. We're light on questions. I'll keep pulling them, but tell us what it is, man. Let's hear it. Let's give some people some context and see what you could trade them for.
Let me see. Let me pull up that league real quick.
Yeah, take your time.
Let's see what league we have them in. Is it this one? Nope, it's not that one. Yes, here it is. All right, so this is a lineup league. Start 6, 9. I think start 10.
You say? I'm sorry. Say it again, Gene. It's lineup what?
It's a lineup league. Start 10. Superflex.
Okay.
And he was one of my quarterbacks. It was Gino, and I had Kyler on this team. So.
Okay.
Oof.
What are your other quarterbacks? Are those the two?
Dalton and Winston. So I don't and Zach Wilson, your favorite.
Ooh. We got sounds like Gene got burnt just like Mike and I did plenty of times with some Zach Wilson shares. I will say this: I got burnt on Zach Wilson for sure. I'm not crazy enough like Mike is to be continuing to buy in, although the price is super cheap now. But I mean, I'm still trying to do it. So really, it's Kyler and you're kind of like quarterback hoping after that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What's your pick situation like? Were you a contender last year? What's
I was a contender last year. I lost in the semifinal, I believe. Yep, lost in the semifinals. I have 109, 209, and 2 4th-round picks. Don't mean nothing. Another player. I have a bunch of players I probably should move. I got Ramondre, Aaron perfect. Jones. Yep.
Those are perfect sell candidates in this type of league. Okay.
Yep. Curtis Samuel, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra, Kittle. Yeah, this was a league I went in because I bought in to get Kittle. McKinnon. I have Cam Akers, another person I probably should get off of.
Damn.
Yeah.
That one hurts me. That hurts me.
Jeff Wilson, Edmonds, a bunch of guys that you were in on at the beginning of last year, and now is like they're worth nothing.
Right.
So Miles Sanders, another running I got a lot of these running backs where they were good, and I got to get off of them.
So here's the thing, though. Sanders maybe. Akers, I'm kind of curious to see what Akers' market is right now. Like if you can trade for a couple seconds in this class, I'd do it. But at the same time, like the way I look at that with Akers is like he won't retain value at this point anymore going into year 4. But like there's a scenario where he could be smashing in that offense next year, and he may be worth more. When I say smashing, like producing points in your lineup, like a top 15, top 12 running back. I'm not saying he's going to go like win you a league by himself, but he could be worth what you're going to sell for. Sanders, going into free agency, if the Eagles don't retain him, like I don't know what his market's going to be.
They've already said that they're probably not bringing him back.
The only way I agree. I saw that, and I think that's probably the only way I think he comes back is if the market's so bad, he's kind of like, it's not good for me out here. Like, what do I got to do to stay here in Philly? And they're like, here you go. Here's a 1 year,
$2 million,
$2, $3, $4, $5 million deal, and like, all right, you've no insurance. Like this is a 1 year deal. Like I think that's how he stays in Philly is if the market's terrible. But
it's gonna be bad for a lot of these running backs outside of Barkley because you got a lot of good backs coming in, and they could do a lot of these things that these veteran backs can do, man. So it's gonna get tough. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be interesting how it goes whenever free agency hits, and we'll know for sure what these teams think about some of these veterans.
I mean, I would, considering packaging, if someone will let you come to the table for actual real quarterback conversation, like Gino, 109, even a second, some of those like I would send Gino, Ramondre, 109. Start with something like that and see if you even get bites or if it's even worth your time to get into the top 12 mix. I mean, if you get Herbert, dude, if you can get Herbert, like it's worth almost sending everyone that you named to me for him.
Yeah.
Like I'm not kidding. Like it's just worth it in that lineup start 10 because you pair him with Kyler and all of a sudden like you can figure out the running backs. It won't be the same as what you had before, but you can figure that out reasonably from there.
Yeah.
I'm curious, man. Keep me posted on that. What if you send out some deals? What happens, man? I'd like to hear that.
I need to do that. I've been on a little break. I need to get back active, man. I need to start making some moves.
I hear that, man. And as you saw on the trade show last week, man, sometimes you send some offer, somebody sends one back, you get a deal done, and then next thing you know, boom, like that stale league all of a sudden's kicking. People are all chopping at the bit. So maybe that'll happen. Bradley Bryan, is Dynasty Fantasy Football Analysis your side gig, or is this what you guys do full time? What sort of advice would you have for folks wanting to break into the space part time? Let me tell you this. It's not my full time gig. It's far from my full time gig right now. We're having a lot of success. We're growing, but like if I decided to tell my work, I'm not coming in anymore, and this was going to be my full time work, we'd be out of this house. Like it's not paying that type of money, man. It's a side gig right now. So. It's going to be a side gig for a while. Would I like to be full-time on this? Absolutely. Am I striving to be? Yes, but it's got a long window before that's even in consideration and discussion. Yeah. Breaking into the space. Interesting, man. I sent Ray a text today kind of saying, like, there's a patron of ours, actually. Go check him out if you're tuning into this on Twitter. I think it's at Evan Ringler FF. He's a patron of ours. He said, the first podcast he fell in love with was actually ours, which is crazy to think of. And he actually just got hired as an intern for Player Profiler doing analytics. So, like, that was really cool to see him, one, say, like, his love really picked up on our podcast, and then, two, he's got an internship with them. Breaking into space part-time, like, it's really hard to answer the question because it kind of depends what you want to do and what your like strengths and like traits are. Like Gene can speak to this too because he's doing part-time work with Destination Devy. He's got a podcast. It's picked up a ton of traction too. Him and Ike are doing great work. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but really you got to figure out, like, do you want to do content? Like, do you want to do a podcast? Do you want to talk into the microphone? Is that your strong suit? Or like Jordan Backus or Dynasty Barry who's in the chat, like, are you an analytics guy that's going to you're really good with numbers behind the scenes? Like, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. And I guess it depends on what avenue you want to do that with. Best way for me, like how I broke into space, was just trying to absorb more information and present yourself smartly. And then all of a sudden, like, opportunities presented itself for me. So that's my way to speak on it. Gene, what do you think?
I think, watch a bunch of people, watch Mike and Adam, watch Jay Rich and Ray and a bunch of other people that put out content via YouTube and listen and try to pick up on some things that you like, that you don't like, things that you feel like might be missing in the space that you think that somebody else might want to pick up on, and just do it. Honestly, I remember when Ray first in 2017, he was just like, "Hey, I'm about to start podcasting fantasy football." We're like, what? All right. He just went and did it. And then a couple years later, he was just like, talk to me and Ike, and he was just like, "Hey, I think y'all should do it." We're like, all right. We just kind of, went through testing, seeing what we sounded like, what we looked like. And we did that for like 3 months before we even came out with anything. So it's just a matter of, practicing what you would want to talk about, seeing how you look, positioning wise, how many times you say or like or any other type of these filler words. You want to make sure that you present the information in a way that you feel comfortable with, and then that other people will be able to receive it. So for me, watch other people that are in the space, figure out something that you want to talk about in a manner that is conducive for you and whoever you think might listen to it, and just do it, honestly, and see where it goes. I mean, you can go on YouTube right now and find a bunch of people that are just doing it. But if you're going to do it, make sure that your presentation is good. I know you'll see some people where they got fuzzy video and all this and that, but you got to make up for that with the content that you're putting out. But I know for a lot of people, you want to make sure it looks good, it sounds good. So most importantly, you want that audio to sound good before anything else, honestly. So
that's true too. Yeah, and it also obviously depends on what your niche is kind of going to be, what you're trying to do. If it is fantasy and you want to be either on camera, or you want to do audio work with podcasts. Gene is right too. At the same time, whatever it is, you want to just start doing it, right? Like, to break into space, the first thing you want to do is you want to be able to present, this is what I do, this is what I can add, this is what I can give that's not currently out there. This is how I'm different. And, for us, like Mike and I, we met in Ray's Discord actually in Heisman. So we paid in the top tier. We were constantly in the Heisman chats and trying to learn from Ray. And, we were in each other's DMs just texting, talking fantasy and dynasty all the time. Mike was like, in the summer, he's like, yeah, why don't we just like try, instead of, texting all the time, why don't we just like hop on a mic, like literally just hop on like on for an hour and we can just talk and get through so much more than we can type. I was like, sure, why not? And we had this little following, man. We had like 30, 40 people following us for a while. But Ray actually listened to our stuff and, presented us with an opportunity to get into a bigger platform, more exposure. So like I'm not going to say it's going to happen to you, but my point is if it's good work and people vibe with it and you put it out there, like what you need first is reps. You're going to need like, go back and watch. Do yourself a favor. I'm not saying I still have a lot to improve on right now, okay? But if you go back and watch, go to all the way to the beginning of our feed and see how much different and better we've just become by just reps. Like we're more comfortable. We weren't, doing stuff like this before. So you learn a lot by just doing it and starting. And then from there, you can, one, improve, and then two, people may find you and you may have a chance to grow from there. So if you want to do just part-time stuff, like that's my biggest suggestion too. Figure out what you want to do, how you want to present it, and just go do it. All right, so Lamar or 105, 106, 205, 12-team Superflex. Madden's Pass. I like that. Madden's Pass. Is this lineup best ball? What are the settings here? 105 and 106. So, like, I don't mind this, honestly, because you're really probably outside of the legit quarterback range. What do you think, man? It's two first is tough.
It's tempting.
Yeah, it's
tempting. It would depend what his quarterbacks look like, though, for sure, because you're giving up a borderline BAM tier quarterback, fucking Konami code quarterback. So I need to know what the quarterback situation look like. I mean, unless you're looking to rebuild, maybe, I don't know.
Yep, that would be like. I'll be honest, man. Lamar to me is a buy. I know people are worried about the holdout, not playing, all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I really don't think there's a format I wouldn't send that in. Like even if I'm best ball, like some of my bigger best ball teams. Like if I'm gonna send 3 picks for one, it's gonna be for a quarterback. Yeah. And if I'm gonna send 3 picks that probably can't net me a quarterback without trading to get an elite quarterback, I'll just do it, man. I'll be honest. Like, I'm sending this in all formats, personally. Like, the only way I'm not is if like Gene said, your team's just not going to compete in anywhere in the near future. And even if I'm selling Lamar, like, I would take that in a rebuild, but I'd probably try to see if I can get a better pick or shoot for more picks in 24 or something. Like, I think you can probably get more back for
I like that 24, getting a pick in 24.
Yep. Yeah. Even if you could drop that second for a 24, like you keep the 205, let me get the 24 first, and we'll call it 3
that would
first
be a super smash.
Yeah,
that would be an easy smash.
Yeah. Yeah. Do something like that if you're trying to sell him on a rebuild. Otherwise, I just want Lamar. All right. 12-team lineup, start 10, 6-point per passing touchdown. He's got a competitive team, but needs a quarterback 2 level replacement for Brady. Oh man, that's a tough one. Because you rode them as far as you can, and here we are. It's time to find a replacement. You got nothing. You probably can't get shit back for Brady at this point. Is the 109 too much for Carr or Danny Dimes? I'll say this. Carr, is it too much for him? Value-wise, yes, because he doesn't have a team. You don't know what his situation is going to be, and you don't know what his future is. Danny Dimes, I'd send 109 for Danny Dimes.
Yep.
I would say 109 for Danny Dimes. Like, if you can do that, AB, I'm just do it. Here's the thing. Danny Dimes may fall on his face. He may never be valued as highly as he is now. But here's the thing. If you send 109 for Danny Dimes, you now have a quarterback too, and you also have another asset that is a quarterback that you could leverage again to get yourself maybe to the big boy table, where this 109 up front doesn't really give you the same – like people don't value trading out of top 12 quarterbacks and it's just 109. Right? Like, if you at least have Danny Dimes, as crazy as it is to say, and then you add to that, like, people might be more willing to trade back and net a plus for Danny Dimes. So that's why I would say that for sure.
Yeah, that's like 109 is like Zach Evans, Josh Downs, Jalen Hyatt. I'll send that in a heartbeat for Danny Dimes.
Charbonnet maybe, like it's just
I'm not even blinking.
No, especially if you need a quarterback too, like because if people find out that you need a quarterback too, they might try to put your head underwater, make you fucking drown to get this quarterback. So yeah. All right, Jay, appreciate the super chat again, man. One quarterback. Would you sell Watson for 2 early to mid seconds? What's your quarterback room like? I mean,
yeah.
If you have another legit quarterback, I would be okay with it, I guess. I'd rather get one secure asset in a player and a second, because you could end up shooting your shot on guys that both miss, and then you just toss Watson to the Wolves. So I'd rather do that, like a player that's solid enough and a second. And one quarterback, Watson's good enough to possibly have weeks that make your team good. And so in one quarterback, that's why I hesitate to sell Watson and why I want to know what your quarterback room looks like, I guess. And
if that other team really needs a starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. So Jay, let me know that in the comments. All right. We got a bunch of questions here. Gene, by the way, if you need to get up out of here, man, you just say the word and we'll toss it.
Okay. No, we still good. The wifey hasn't said nothing yet.
All right, cool. I know the drill with that, man. So we're going until one of the wives say it's time to wrap this thing up. All right, Jason, with startup season starting, what's a strategy you guys like using this time of year? Oh, this is if you go look at the thumbnail too, part of the reason I put that thumbnail together was you had the rookies, some of the guys that may go up and down based on how their combine and draft capital shake out. But the background, there's layers of this thing, right? There's layers to it if you go back and look at the picture. This is a multi-layered, deep question. I like this. What do you think here, Jane? Talk to me.
This is a very multi-layered question for sure. Startup season. I haven't done any startups yet. I've been trying to hold out. I know we got a couple of USFFL leagues that they're thinking about jumping. So, but in terms of strategy wise, it depends. Really, I want to know in terms of, you'll know right away which teams are in love with rookies, that they just want to trade their picks to get rookie picks, or they're just going really young. So, but one strategy for sure, I think we've kind of talked about this before, is that I want a BAM tier quarterback. I want one of those top 5 quarterbacks. I have to leave with at least one of them. If you're feeling really froggy, then you trade the 24 first and you go get 2 of them. I think that's something that I really, when I start getting into these starts this year, that's my objective for sure. I'm trading up. If I'm outside the top 5, top 6, I'm getting one of those quarterbacks. I need one of those, because as we said before, there's 20, if you're playing in a Superflex, start 2 quarterbacks, 12-team league, there's 24 starting quarterbacks, and I've already said there's not even 24 that you trust in your starting lineup. So yep. I need one of those. I have to leave with one, maybe probably 2 off top.
See, and this is where, okay, so Gene's been in auctions. He's in a bunch of leagues. He knows. So, this is one of the issues that's happening. So, last year, right, we had, a deeper tier of quarterbacks that you might be able to say, fuck it, I'll risk it for, right? Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, right? Second-round guys. Now that whole tier has really fallen off, because now all of a sudden that tier is Daniel Jones, which, as great as he was last year in points per game, people just don't want to believe it, and the weapons and Barkley leaving too just clouds it, right? You go from the top 12 to, holy shit, let me shoot my shot on Lance, because in this offense, if it works out for him, maybe he'll be the next big thing. And you'll get, Daniel Jones. You're taking Pickett way too high because of youth, right? You're just going to no man's land. So because of that, auction right now, I think, has been the best format. But this really now, because of it, makes auction so optimal. We're in an auction right now. Yep. Guess what's happening in this auction? Let me tell you what's happening. Give you a little nugget that you're going to catch on Friday.
And auction is the best way to do startups. No other way. It has to be auction.
Yeah, I mean,
Auction.
like I'll do some snake auction draft or snake startups, but here's the problem. Like I'm gonna tell you why auction definitely is the format that should be the case. So if you go into a snake, right? Let's even say it's derby, like how we want to make sure everyone gets their chance to get whatever post they want. If you don't get one of the top 7, 8 picks, because I guess even at 9, like you maybe you'll say, fuck it, I won't take quarterback, but I'll take, Chase or Jefferson. Like, you might be that guy. I'm not there yet. I love Chase and Jefferson now. We've come a long way in a year, speaking of, starting out with content. But if you don't get one of those posts, you can't, now you don't get an elite quarterback, and you're out of everything. Like, there's nothing you can do at the 112 if you sat there and just took the picks that makes you say, I have an edge. There's nothing. You don't get any of the quarterbacks. Like, why should before you already committed your money, now in this auction or in this startup you get 111, 112, you're screwed. Like that there's no like strategy there. You just didn't get the best post.
Yep.
Like an auction,
unless you do third round reversal, and even then you're still not even.
Even then, like you may land 3 studs. But what we know in Superflex is like that's just not going to equate to Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Burrow, Hurts. It just doesn't. Like, it's just not going to happen unless you end up taking a shot on C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson and they ascend to that. There's just no way for that to happen. Where in auction, everybody has the same amount of money, same amount of clip, same amount of bids. Go get your guy. You want Mahomes? Exactly. He's yours. Exactly. What's it going to cost you? You're going to pay out the nose. I got Mahomes in this league. It cost me it was 37% of my budget, but like I could get Mahomes if I wanted him. And at any point, if I decided it's too much, I'm good. I don't have to have him now. Like it's an even race to get whatever player, especially the quarterbacks. So I guess the strategy here is, like Gene said, if I have a top pick, I'm like, you're going to have to pay so much, you'll never do it. You'll never see someone pay me in a startup what it would cost to get off of Mahomes. It's just not going to happen.
I remember in our the Royal Rumble, the cost that we saw to get.
Dude, those values in the Royal Rumble when we did the startup and the auction last year, like that's gone now because people exploited that. But yeah, I'm not doing that. And then also what I would love to do is see if I can trade my second, third, maybe even, not a first in the future, but a second, third, and even if I had to add something else to get into, the top 8, 12 quarterbacks again. Because if I can leave with 2 of the top 12, 2 of the top 8 especially, I don't need to pick till my 4th round because my edges at quarterback are so good I can make up for it. So, like that's probably the premier one. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, like, I'm already seeing it's in February. Everybody knows this. Auction, everybody knows this. The quarterback values are so stupid. Bijan Robinson already has gone for less than the 3 quarterbacks in the class that are guaranteed like buzz. Richardson, Bryce, and CJ have gone for more than Bijan. Yes.
Really?
And you know why? Because everybody saw the top tier quarterbacks all go for 30%. And they're like, well, I'll just take the risk on CJ at 13% because what if he hits? All those guys possess what if he hits. Like that's part of the thing you don't see in startups versus an auction. Like you get to see everybody's thought process by dollar. Yes. So it's kind of cool.
You know the true value of how they value that person, man. There's no other way to see it unless you do auction.
And what you also saw there is 11 other people let Bijan go for less than the quarterbacks. Whoever got Bijan, I forget who it was. I can't think now. But whoever got Bijan, 11 other people decided, you know what, you can have him for that. Like that shows you where people really value the running back position as a whole in auction, which is kind of interesting to see given that running back is so devalued, but Bijan is the consensus 101. I think if you're positioned right to take Bijan, he's a smash. But if you're not roster constructed right, like it's a little dicier. So, and I love Bijan to death. All right. So
what do you think? Just to talk about the value of running back, before this season started, if you wanted to trade for JT, it was what, 3 firsts probably. Now your best running back.
It was at least 2, probably more. Truthfully, yeah,
probably almost 3. Now you'd be lucky to get 2 firsts for Saquon, for JT. You're definitely not getting that for C-Mac. You're not
Kenneth
getting
Walker,
that for
maybe.
Breece Hall. You're not getting that. So it's crazy how 1 year it just plummeted.
Yeah,
for everybody.
It's what makes the Bijan conundrum so crazy. Because if you saw on the trade show, actually let me don't spoil it because it's coming out. We did it early. It's coming out Saturday. Okay. I traded Bijan away, and I was torn on it because of what I'm getting back. But the reality is what I get back is essentially in the neighborhood of 3 firsts in value. And here's what you have to ask yourself with Bijan. What am I paying for? What you're paying for is essentially the idea of a rookie that's so much better. Like you're basically saying if Saquon Barkley and what he did last year was a rookie and he could carry that for 3 or 4 years, that's what you're paying for. Like you're out of the box when you take Bijan, you're paying for youth, you're paying for his rookie contract, you're paying for 3 years, but you're also paying, built into that is production. And if he doesn't give you the production plus all the dynasty value, it's just a hope because of what you're paying.
He has to give it to you day one. It can't be year 2, otherwise the shit is like the value's gone.
Right. And the thing with him is he has all the traits to be one of the guys that is like Saquon, which makes you never take him off the field. Like that's basically the other thing. Which name the other guys. Breece was the only other one that was young enough and possessed, 3-down skill set. Like even Kenneth Walker caught some passes, but he's not a true 3rd-down running back, Yeah. Like that's part of what Bijan has in hype. But there's so much working against Bijan as much as I love him at the cost of 101. Not saying it can't work out, but you're basically getting what you pay for if he smashes. And if he doesn't, there's a lot more risk in fall value because he's a running back, because nobody fucking values running backs anymore. It's just it's the way it is. All right, so let's get to any other final questions we got here. All right, okay. I have T-Law, Carr, Purdy, Breece Hall, ETN, Pacheco, Olave, Ridley, Dubs, and some other serviceable flex options, and still 103. Oh, I missed the question. All right. 12-team Superflex PPR, start 12. JMO 108, 202, 204, 24 first for CMC, Devontae Smith, and Amari Cooper. Ooh.
JMO.
What do you think here, James?
108 and 2. I mean, just reading it out seems too much. JMO 108,
202, 204, 24 first. Yep.
Sheesh.
So CMC, let me ask you, because we were talking running backs. Like CMC is probably one of these guys that value-wise in startups, people are going to really want 2 first, but I don't know that I see a lot of people sending 2 first for CMC anymore. Like that's probably realistically value-wise where he is, but I just don't know if I'm paying that anymore because he's getting older. But if I say, okay, so Devontae Smith is also another. He's probably
just 1 first. You're not sending more than that.
I was gonna say you're not sending 2. I think no one's taking a single right now, so I think it's probably a first and a second.
First and a second.
Yeah.
And Amari is probably a second.
Yeah, Amari is right now. Amari's 2 seconds. Like if we get to next year and he's still the Browns 1, like you might see someone think that they're really good and trade a late first. But so the reason I say all that is because let's say Devontae's a first and a second. Let's say CMC's another first and a second, and Cooper's 2 seconds. So like realistically here, it's not horrible because like if you want to tell me right now JMO and 108 for Devontae Smith, it's too much. If you want to tell me JMO and 108 for CMC and Devontae Smith, I like it. When I had Amari Cooper in the seconds, it's honestly it's not horrible.
No,
especially as a contender. So you got T-Law, you got Carr, you got Purdy, you got Hall, ETN, Pacheco, Olave, Ridley, Dubs. I'll tell you my problem here, Talonly. So let me ask you this, because I think the way I'm reading this is a lineup league. If you're still with me here, if you could drop that in there. Because this is one of the things I've learned, right? If I look at these quarterbacks, what got me into trouble in lineup leagues, and honestly it's in best ball too, was not having enough depth at quarterback. So let's say Purdy ends up not being the quarterback for Frisco. Let's say he doesn't end up beating this, surgery time and is able to take this starting job away from Trey Lance. Now all of a sudden you're at T-Law and Carr with no backups. Carr, we don't even know who he's going to play for. He may not have any warp value. And you're an injury away from complete catastrophe. Which for me, why I say all that is because you're sending away your 24 first right now like it's late. And the reality is this team could be very good, but it's not like so locked in to where, like Breece Hall, right? I love Breece Hall, but he could come back slow coming off of the Achilles or the ACL last year, right? Yep. Etienne's good. Pacheco's solid, but what if they bring in someone just to make him have a little more competition? He doesn't smash. Olave, Devontae Smith, Cooper. Like, it's a good team, but it's not – this team is not unbreakable here. I'm assuming 103 you take your quarterback. It's not horrible, man. But if it's lineup, like, I would rather send a different asset than your 24 first.
It is lineup.
Okay, there you go. So if it's lineup, I'll be honest, like, it's fair in value. I would love to see if there's a way you can keep your 24 first just in case shit hits the fan, because it hits the fan for a lot of people. Then it's not your own fault. And add something else to get this deal done.
I would honestly kind of prefer the pick side, man. You still got leverage in terms of moving them for something else. Like, they're moving these picks for CMC, who this might be his last year of like elite value. Amari Cooper, he's on the last year of his deal. I mean, I don't know after that. I know I want to say he finished in the wide receiver 2 range. Devontae smashed. He finished as a wide receiver 1, but you got 2 assets that might be on their last leg. Unless he's like really pushing to go all in. I mean, looking at some of the players that he rattled off, I don't think he's in a position to do that.
His team's very good, but it's not like,
yeah.
This move is basically to say you want to go win it right now. And
yeah,
2 things. One, like, trying to win a league in February is typically not a great time to do so. But if you are determined to go buy guys cheaper in this time of year, it's not a horrible play. It could work out. But I'm not leveraging my 24 first for this. Like, for example, if this is JMO 108, 202, 204 for the other 3 guys, like, that's a smash. I guess what I would try to do is see if you can take your 24 first out and add something that's not quite as valuable as a 24 first to make it happen. Because the reality, too, is the person selling CMC and Cooper, they want to rebuild, I'm guessing. They're taking all these picks because they want to get youth. I think you can leverage out your 24 first and send something back that makes the deal a lot more reasonable. And that's kind of the reason I bring that up on a few different levels. But hopefully that helps, man. Appreciate you asking the question and your thoughts on it. Yeah, Barry says it's the pick for me. Not even close. Appreciate Barry. You letting us keeping us, on our toes and telling us the truth because this time of year I don't really want to do that, especially for the package. If you can take your 24 first out and make something different, I'm okay buying age right now at a discount, but that wasn't really like a clear discount. And Barry's right on that
and
point.
I don't even know if I want to move my 23 first right before the combine.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got like 108's a pick that in Superflex, if Gibbs checks the boxes, if these receivers get the draft capital, if they run well, and Richardson looks good at the combine, like all of a sudden that 108 pick, like Mike's talked about this, it's right on the cusp of I either have a chance at a quarterback or I get a top tier wide receiver or Gibbs falls. There's only so many options at 108, so. I don't mind the package you're getting back, man, but I'm not sending everything in the deal that you sent there, or we're going to send there.
Yeah, especially that 24 first, man.
The 24 first, I think is just I'm not. There's no way I'm leveraging my next year on what you're getting back. I guess is the best way I should phrase that.
Yeah.
All right. Wanting the 101. The other side wants Waddle and Walker. Thoughts? Still have JJ Bateman in London. Taylor, Etienne, and Connor. Wait, is that Kenneth Walker and Waddle for Bijan?
Yes.
I'm not. No.
Yeah.
No.
That's an I don't know.
I don't even. Mike and I will tell you, not Waddle guys, but there's just no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. No
That's
way
too much.
in hell. See, okay, I'll be honest. Like, Will, here's what I'll say. Right now, the Bijan hype, like value-wise in a startup, like it won't even make sense. But there's going to be people that pay worse than this for the 101. Mike and I have talked about it for a while. People are going to pay something for Bijan that shouldn't be paid. But see, this is why I think, let me just say this. Kenneth Walker may never possess points per game what Bijan can. But, like, Kenneth Walker's in the range of top 5 running back. Like, this is, to be honest with you, if I have the 101 and I don't, like, I'm not trying to get into the quarterback leverage game, like, this is a perfect down tier for me. Like, I would do this every time. Kenneth Walker and you give me Waddle. As much as I don't like Waddle, he's a secure enough value that I could trade him away for something else, too. So, too much. I would much rather have Waddle and JJ and Bateman and London and Walker and Taylor and Etienne and Connor that I would add Bijan to this room. Personally. So, all right, startup leagues. Are you looking to win now or build for the future? I've always believed in win now, worry about next year while you're in the playoffs chasing the ship. This is a good Gene's shaking his head like, yeah, I want to go win now. Go ahead. What do you got, Gene?
Yeah, win now. We've done enough auction startups last year and the year before that. You want to win now, man. Like, I don't want to play the game of, waiting on players for like 2-3 years, because depending on the league you're in, it might not even be around by year 3. So I say try to get that money now, man. Because there's always at least 1 or 2 people that are rookie fever mode, and you can try to get a deal done, and you go get two top 12 players, man. If it's auction, definitely win now. If it's lineup, if it's regular, snake draft, then I would want to win now. But it just depends how the draft falls, honestly, and how you maneuver it. But if it's auction, definitely win now mode. I'm not trying to play around.
Yeah, Fizzle. Let me say this. We did a entire breakdown coming out Friday, auction leagues, that I think is worth checking out on Friday for 4D. So I don't want to spoil too much of that part. I've always believed in being fluid. And what that means is seeing where the values are and trying to take advantage of that and not forcing a timeline for me to win. I will say this, though. Last 2 years, I've done more rebuilds than I probably anybody you're going to find for the most part, because that's where the value lied. And then as I play in more leagues, I see that if I roster construct the right way, and if you listen to what we're talking about, if you listen to, Scott, Ray, the guys that are really tapped in and understand, like if you roster construct well enough in startups, you go into the year with not necessarily a direction right away, and then when things break right, if they do, you're positioned to go win. And what you miss by forcing a rebuild too early, by totally ripping it down to the studs right away, is you don't have a chance to. Like, you're out of the mix. You can't win for a couple of years. And you can win in the future, but even in, a tournament style, you're just not guaranteed to, even if you have a absolute star-studded team. Will I rebuild? Yes, but I think right now what I'll tell you is, out of the gates, I would like to form my team with the anchors it needs, even if I want to rebuild. But I want to make sure that I'm not just foregoing a chance at contention in a startup, is the best way I could say this. Be fluid enough to where you're taking value, but don't strip it down into the studs so that you have no chance to compete the whole season, unless it's criminally ridiculous. Like you're leaving with the whole 24 type class type shit. Otherwise, get at least one top 5-6 quarterback, whatever it takes. Get, young positional players that will help this team be ready to go in a year or two, even if it ends up not being your year this year. But I don't want to, unless I'm just given so much value, punt right away is, I guess, the best way I can phrase this.
Yeah. I like how you put the fluid. You do definitely need to be fluid. I know last year doing startups, that was one thing I was like you. I was leaning more towards, all right, let me go a little more younger than I usually do.
Yep.
And when you looked at the end result, you just like kind of like, man, I should have probably stuck with how I really move. But you got it. Sometimes you just got to follow the value. It just makes too much sense. So be
Exactly.
fluid, like he said.
Exactly. Yeah. See the values, play it where you need to. Don't go in like forcing a direction. But unless someone's paying you so far above market, like I don't want to punt unless it's just clearly the best way to go. I'd much rather secure the positions we know that matter, so that even if you end up not being a contender next year, you had a chance to be, and then next year you'll be much better positioned to contend again. All right, couple questions, and we'll get Gene up out of here. What teams do you think may take one of the placeholder quarterbacks in free agency to try to tank for Caleb Williams? Ooh, Sean, it's a pretty good question, man. Well, I'll tell you this much. I'll pull up the teams, and before I do that, I can tell you right now that there's 4 quarterbacks that we project to go in the first round. So that leaves basically the whole fucking NFL that still needs a placeholder, because we just talked about how bad it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we go by conference, right, the AFC East has, Josh Allen's secure. The Dolphins, I don't think they're going to take a placeholder. I think Tua is their guy for this year. But the injuries, the concussions, like, I don't know that's it sounds like they're not trying to pay him right now. And
there was a report that said that they're debating if they want to pick up that 5th-year option.
Right. I think that unless they have a different unless they have something that feels more secure, that they'll pick up the option. But what's basically certain is right now the negotiating table for a long-term deal is not there until he proves that he can win and stay healthy. And that's an uphill battle. So I think there's no extension coming from him. New England, there's a lot of reports that Bailey Zappi is viewed as equal as Mac Jones. Let me just tell you that's not true. But Mac Jones is not a secured asset there. The Jets need a quarterback there in the retread market. I don't know. There's a ton of teams. I can go through all of them. But, like, Gene, who do you think, real quick, so we don't take forever on this question?
Washington could be a place.
Bucks.
The Bucks, maybe Tennessee. Tennessee said they're bringing back Tannehill, but this is his last year's deal. I don't know, but Vrabel is going to want to win. I don't think they're going to be looking to tanks per se. Carolina could possibly do. I mean, that whole NFC South could be in contention for him, depending on how they want to play it. Who else? Trying to think what other teams.
There's a ton of them.
Houston.
Well, Houston, they might. I feel like Houston at least has 2-12. Now, they might say, fuck it, we're going to lean in one more year and not have a quarterback, so we just build, and then next year we can take our guy in 24, and we could be positioned for Caleb Williams, Drake May. 24 class is loaded. I think the Colts are drafting one, I'll be honest with you. I don't see a scenario with them. I think that, like, for the Raiders, absolutely are. I think that there's so many teams, man. Like, there's so many fucking teams. Washington, you already mentioned. The Rams, I don't know what they plan to do, if they're just going to go in with Stafford and Baker. I don't know. Someone put in the chat earlier, I forgot to pull the question, like, what does Jordan Love's value become when Rodgers moves? I don't know if they're guaranteeing Jordan Love the starting job, but they would bring in a retread. The entire NFC South needs a quarterback, for those who aren't aware. The Bucks, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Falcons all need a quarterback. Given that there's only 4 rookies, I doubt the entire division gets one. So there's a lot of them, man. There's a lot of them. I think this year what's interesting about Geno is, like, I don't think he's a long-term asset that I want to have in Dynasty. But if there was a year for Geno to come out and have a great season in Seattle and be an unrestricted free agent, this is it, because so many teams are desperate. And when the dominoes start falling and teams need a quarterback, like you saw Carson Wentz, Ron Rivera paid up and trade a pick for fucking Carson Wentz and they cut him the next year because it's just desperate season out there. Wild. I still can't believe that happened, man. Oh, wow. All right. What are the cheapest quarterbacks you would try to buy for a BB contender? I mean, I would buy really cheap ones on Best Ball, like depending on the cost. I mean, I'll let you start it off, Gene, but there are so many different ways to answer this question.
Golf, Cousins, Wilson, Mac Jones. Geno, if you're trying to contend.
Yep.
I would say Purdy, but people want 2 firsts for him, so I'll pass on that. Pickett.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get crusty.
There's a bunch of them.
I'll get crusty on you. I'll try to see. I'll knock at the door on Jimmy G owner. See what he will go for. Jimmy G will be one of the retreads that will get in there. Stafford.
Yep. What about Tannehill? Knowing that
I'll buy Tannehill for the cheap. Cheap. I'll buy. I'll tell you one that probably is not a sexy buy at all anymore is crab legs Jameis Winston. I don't know why he couldn't get on the field in New Orleans, but great question. He's probably I'll tell you a really, really cheap one that you can probably get dirt cheap now, especially as time goes on, is Jacoby Brissett, who might find himself in competition to win a starting job as well.
Yeah.
So that's my list. There might be another one that nah. When I get past there, I'm probably good because you start getting into Wentz and Mariota, who could land on their feet, but I'm just not willing to pay anything for them today. All right, I think we're almost out. There's 1 or 2 more. Okay, 12-team Superflex Cousins or Ramondre. It's Cousins.
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, no. I'll just tell you an auction in a 12-team startup best ball. Ramondre is not off the board. But what Cousins went for, Ramondre has no chance. Sean, so just...
Oh, yeah.
Like, Cousins is not... See, this is the thing. Cousins isn't a sexy asset, right? Like, Ramondre for a while last year was... If they have nothing else in New England this year, maybe he still is, but, like, it's at the wrong position to be sexy because that value can be gone at a heartbeat. And Cousins, like, doesn't have a ton of shelf life left, but... As much as you see him struggle in prime time, like he gives you points at the Superflex spot, so it's not that close. All right, T-Rock put this up earlier. I'm thankful I started my rebuilds in 21-22 because 23 and 24 classes are so goated. I honestly got lucky, but I got a little help from 4D. T-Rock came in one of my leagues that I like a lot, and all of a sudden I'm looking at his team like, yeah, this is a guy I'd like to try to make trades with because the way he's making trades, like I think I could get him. 6 months, a year after he's been listening to us, I'm like, wait a minute. This is my fucking build. This is my build in my league. Who is this fucking guy? Shout out to T-Rock. T-Rock leveraged everything. He played 4D chess. He now has Mahomes and Hurts in a lineup start 10. Ooh. And he has 24 picks out the ass. Corey, wherever you're at, I hope you're – I know you were in here at one point, but yeah.
T-Rock.
Yeah, T-Rock's making it hard to not be the one that has the picks right now. All right, I know it was worth checking out if 4D is dropping. I was going to check it out anyway. Oh, yeah, I know you were, Fizzle. I just didn't want to spoil it on here because when 4D drops on Friday, I don't want to tell the the inside scoop. But this episode is perfect for the question you had. So appreciate you, Fizzle. I thought we had one more question. Actually, I don't see it. Oh, nope. Here we go. How do you guys value Jordan Love? Oh, I already said this. If Rodgers is gone, Jordan Love will probably get another little added bump because he's supposed to be the starter. Like I don't know where you're at, Gene. I'm selling all of that.
I mean,
in a heartbeat,
if you go to keep trade cut, he is quarterback 20, so he's above Mac Jones, Geno, Purdy already, and Aaron Rodgers is still on the roster. So,
dude, I see. Here's my problem with that is like we don't value him. Like most people that are tapped in are not going to tell you that he was a good prospect. He was not good enough at all to even consider a starting job in Green Bay, not extending Rodgers when Rodgers said he'd never play for them again. So we're at this point now where it's like they don't believe they can win, right? And so Jordan Love's going to take the field with the cast of characters that Aaron Rodgers couldn't lead to success for himself. Like, what do we think Jordan Love is going to do next year? I guess is like my point is, if I know that he's valued at quarterback 20 and then there's any type of bump coming, even if it's small, I don't have much of them, to tell you the truth, but they're gone. Yeah. They are gone if I can get out. I know in a lot of my leagues I probably won't be able to move him for what Keep Trade Cut says, but the point is I would love to do that. Would he be like Mac Jones Pickett tier? Okay, so good question. The back part, though, he's already ahead of Mac. He's not to Pickett yet. I don't know that he's going to get to Pickett because what is he 15, 14? What's Pickett?
Yeah, Pickett is 15, and Love is 20.
I mean, so here's the thing. Tier wise, right now, Pickett is 2 tiers ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah, he probably will get close to the Pickett tier range. It seems like when that happens, I don't think Rodgers is going back to Green Bay. I don't think they want him back anyway.
No, I don't think so either.
All right, I'll tell you what, man. Last question is going to go to Fizzle because he says he doesn't want to hold us up. But Fizzle, you made that intro for us. It's just fucking so dope. I'll give you last question. This is it. This is the last question of the day. Appreciate everyone tapping in. As always, I'll let Gene plug his stuff on the way out. Don't want to hold y'all up, but we didn't get to touch on rookies much. Just wanted to see if you think any of these top wide receivers are team proof and which has the better chance, if all, land in bad spots. Good question. I will say this for bad spots, right? Like Quentin Johnson for me, and I know Gene's concern, and I still have it too. But if he lands in a good spot because of his big traits, and if they use early draft capital with a good quarterback, I'm much more excited about Quentin Johnson. Now, if Quentin Johnson,
good spot meaning that he's not the number 1, he's the number 2.
Yeah, like more so than anything though, that like it's a elite quarterback throwing him the football that's a good passer. Like if that happens, I'm more interested in Quentin Johnson because here's the thing: if he goes to a spot that's like let's say he goes to the Giants, right? People are going to say, "Oh, well, they need a weapon." Okay, but if Barkley's gone and he's the focal point of the offense and it's Danny Dimes throwing him the football. Like I'm more concerned on him on the outside in like the Giants landing spot or in a bad landing spot, let's say. So I guess like you know the way Jordan Addison and JSN win, like JSN especially in the slot, I'm not as worried about the quarterback situation because I think he can win in spots where quarterbacks will find him that aren't super downfield all the time, and he can still thrive. Whereas Quentin Johnson, I don't like him in a really bad landing spot, if I'm being completely honest about this question.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What about somebody like Jalen Hyatt?
Jalen Hyatt's interesting. Jalen Hyatt especially is interesting as a speed specimen, deep ball tracker. Like if I hate to use this because it's so tired because of Sky Moore and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but like if he lands in KC
to the moon, man.
It's going to be, people are going to go crazy because it's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes will be able to hit him deep all day long. In other spots too, I wouldn't mind Jalen Hyatt. But if Jalen Hyatt doesn't have an accurate quarterback throwing on the football or doesn't have like a cannon arm, you know what I mean? Like that's where he wins. Like that's where he poses fantasy upside, is beating someone deep and having a 50-yard touchdown any given time. Yeah. That if that's dropped down because the quarterback isn't like it. If he lands last year in Atlanta, like who gives a fuck about Jalen Hyatt if he can beat everybody deep if it's Mariota and Ritter throwing the football to Jalen Hyatt last year? You know what I mean? Like that's part of the same conversation with him where I think I'd like him, but quarterback for him does help break a tie with where I would value him.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Any other? What about you? What about you with Hyatt or with any of these other guys?
It would be tough. Like if I see Hyatt to like Tampa Bay, where you don't know who the quarterback is, I'm just gonna be like, I don't know, man. I don't know
Kyle
about
Trask.
This. Yeah, you see him go, Jalen Hyatt go to like New England. I'm just like that. And I think any wide receiver that goes to New England, people are gonna just be like, man, I don't know.
The only thing about New England, I'm with you. Now, New England's not a good one, but it's also like it wouldn't be the worst one for me. Like I think they're, Patricia won't be calling plays. I think Mac Jones is decent, but not great. It's not his best landing spot. It wouldn't be the worst. I would like to see what value would do, but like I don't think there's a receiver that lands in New England and I'm like going crazy. Maybe JSN, because the way that New England likes to push the ball downfield is not. So maybe JSN just gets a bunch of catches in the middle of the field. Also be interesting to see what Jacoby Myers does in the offseason. But like to your point, like the landing spot in New England is not going to get anyone like, oh shit, like Jalen Hyatt to the moon. It's Mac Jones throwing in the football. He's the number one, but what does that matter?
Yeah,
I would like it for Mac Jones personally, because Mac Jones seems to have not had a chance to have any weapons for 2 years, and I would like to see him just have any type of weapon. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else in the 23 class receiver-wise worth. Let me ask you this. First of all, we already know it's Booty, Keyshawn Booty. We've been saying Boutte. Where are you at with him? I think he's a polarizing one because he's been highly touted, had a bad year this year. Points, they're saying he quit on his football team, was outplayed by Malik Neighbors.
Yep.
Where are you at with Keyshawn Boutte, and also in this landing spot discussion?
I don't think I really want to. I don't think I would. I think that's one wide receiver I rather not even touch, honestly.
Okay, given it cost,
for him, I think he was one of those wide receivers that he broke out his freshman year and then didn't do shit any other year.
Right.
Dealing with injuries, I think, like metrics wise, depending on how he tests, he could shoot up the boards, because I think right now he's probably like wide receiver 6, wide receiver 7.
Yeah,
wide receiver 8.
He's anywhere from 5 to 7 typically.
Yeah,
and mocks right now. He's currently coming off the board at 5.
I mean, like I said, his freshman year he was nasty, but I don't know, man. I don't have a good feeling about him. But I shouldn't be drafting somebody by feeling. I need more data points, honestly, to see how I feel. I think he needs to be in a situation where he's probably like the third wide receiver. So maybe somewhere like, I don't know, if he goes somewhere like Carolina, man, he could be behind Terrence Marshall and DJ Moore.
Yeah,
he can be behind Tyler Lockett and Metcalf in Seattle. Like I want to see him to be the third wide receiver, and let's see what he can do, man.
You know what's interesting about that point you brought up there, which I don't think you meant to correlate here, but I have vivid thoughts of, is Pickens last year. Going to Pittsburgh, all of a sudden, like Pittsburgh's a spot where we like that, right? Like they draft receivers well. It's an offense that has shown, receivers can be good. They had a new quarterback, and they had Chase Claypool, and they had Deontay. So people are like, oh, Pickens, you got to wait on him. Man, what prospect-wise, it's not close. Like, I don't understand how that became such a negative. But to your point, like that's actually an edge, though. If he goes to a spot where people say, well, maybe it won't be him, he's going to take a while to break out and his cost comes down, but it's a decent landing spot. Like that's actually a good point on where value might be able to be had with Keyshawn Booty. I gotta stop saying Boutte. It's just ingrained in me. But Fizzle, man, appreciate the question. Hope that answers it for you. I'm gonna make sure you get your outro in out of here. And before we get completely out of here, Gene, anything you want to plug on the way out? I know it's off the line and everything, but anything else?
Man, no, just follow the podcast at Off the Line Fantasy FF. You can find me on Twitter at FantasyGenes. That's GENES. You can follow Ike, _Ike09. Drop podcast every Thursday. I mean, we drop funny things here and there. talking about stuff outside of football on our Twitter, but just on our podcast, we just like talking football. Period. I know we're in that dead zone, so it's just want to keep it fresh by talking anything about football. So we'll appreciate the listen. We appreciate y'all, tapping in with Destination Devy as a whole. All Gas newsletter drops every Friday, so
yes,
just
sir.
tap in with us.
Yeah, man, the newsletter is always dope, man. So make sure you're tapping into that. Make sure you're checking out Off the Line. The Destination Devy radio feed is basically a weekly must listen to me. Cap or no cap. If you know, you know. Make sure you're tapping in, and you will know. Gene, man, we appreciate you hopping on with us, filling in. Would have been nice to have Mike on here with us, but we had just Gene today. So appreciate your time. We will have to get Gene back in here more. One of my favorite people in the space, knowledgeable. So appreciate you hopping in, man. Everybody else, thanks for the questions. Thanks for the super chats. Hope we helped you get, a little edge on whatever questions you had. And we will see you back here, same time, same place next week with a beardless Mike. We're out of this thing. Peace.